The invitation to the annual Dawson family gathering sat unopened on a mahogany table inside a sleek glass-walled office overlooking the San Francisco Bay. The soft hum of waves below blended with the quiet buzz of success, the kind that had been carefully hidden for nearly 2 decades. Amelia Dawson had crafted her secret life like a master artist. No one in her family knew that behind the minimalist studio apartment and the outdated hatchback was one of the most powerful women in tech. 50 years ago, she walked away from her Ivy League business degree, rejected the corporate path laid out for her, and disappeared into what her family assumed was obscurity. In truth, Amelia had been quietly building a digital empire from the shadows, an empire now worth over $5 billion. And now, thanks to an upcoming Forbes cover story revealing her as the queen of immersive AI art, that silence was about to end. Her assistant's voice broke the quiet. "Miss Dawson, your cousin Elijah is calling again. He's been at it since the embargo lifted." Amelia sighed, knowing that once the truth came out, there would be no turning back. The facade was over. The reckoning had begun. Amelia stared at her phone screen, the Forbes headline glowing like a spotlight on secrets she'd buried deep. Amelia Dawson's AI art empire valued at $5.2 billion. And the feature wasn't even live yet. It would publish tomorrow morning, just 48 hours before her entire family would gather under one roof. No more hiding, no more playing the part of the starving artist. Her truth, once a quiet ember, was now a wildfire. "Miss Dawson," her assistant chimed through the intercom. "Elijah's on line 1 again." Of course he was. Elijah, her older cousin, and the family's favorite success story, had been calling non-stop since the embargo was lifted. She hesitated for a moment, then answered with a calm she didn't feel. "Elijah." "What the hell, Amelia?" His voice was tight, sharp. "Business Weekly just reached out about my secret tech mogul cousin. Is this real? Is this some kind of joke?" She swiveled her chair toward the panoramic view of the Golden Gate Bridge. "You'll read the article like everyone else," she replied smoothly. "Cut the act," he snapped. "For 15 years, you let us believe you were scraping by. Aunt Valerie was crying over you last Christmas." "Crying, Amelia? Thought you were one rent check away from disaster." Amelia let out a soft, bitter laugh. "Crying? That's what you call it? I remember the lectures, the eye rolls, the way you all treated me like a burden. It wasn't concern, it was control." Elijah fell silent. He had always been the golden boy. Stanford MBA, hedge fund partner, heir to their uncle's finance firm. He lived the life their family worshipped: tailored suits, planned power lunches, and legacy. Amelia had chosen something different, and they had written her off for it. "Just tell me one thing," Elijah finally asked, voice low. "How long?" She stood, her bare feet padding across the cool floor as she approached the balcony. A private drone hovered in the distance, hers of course, conducting surveillance on a new AI gallery opening in Tokyo. "Remember when I moved into that cramped apartment in Oakland?" she asked. "You mean when you started your weird little art thing?" "That was 16 years ago. I'd already sold my first digital art series for $60,000. 6 months later, I cleared another $180,000. By the time Aunt Valerie was telling people I was finding myself, I had already crossed my first million." "But you still drove that beat-up Camry. You let Grandma slip you $100 bills." "I never needed the money," Amelia said softly. "I asked you all to invest. Every one of you laughed, so I built it without you." There was a pause, long, heavy, and full of realization. "How rich are you really?" Elijah's voice cracked. Amelia's lips curled into a quiet smile. "The article says $5.2 billion. That's a little low." She ended the call and whispered into the intercom. "Cleo, schedule a board meeting for noon. And arrange transport for the family. Rolls-Royces only." This time they wouldn't be coming to pity her. They'd be arriving at her empire. The morning of the article's release, Amelia was already awake. She stood barefoot in her penthouse kitchen, sipping a perfectly brewed espresso as the sun painted the San Francisco skyline in gold. Her smartwatch buzzed, 6:00 a.m., right on cue. Her screen lit up with chaos, hundreds of notifications, emails, missed calls, social media exploding. The headline blared, "Digital Visionary, Amelia Dawson's $5.2 billion AI art empire shocks the industry." She had handpicked the photo herself. Amelia, standing in front of Luminal Echoes, her most famous installation, wearing a tailored silver suit worth more than her sister's car. It was poetic. Within seconds, her family group chat went into meltdown. "Olivia, what the actual hell? Amelia? Uncle Greg, is this real? Our Amelia? Aunt Valerie, why didn't you tell us? Mom, Amelia, pick up, we need to talk. Dad, this has to be some mistake." Amelia muted the chat and turned to her email. There, buried beneath media inquiries and billion-dollar investment offers, was one that made her laugh out loud. An email from Marshall Thorne, her father's longtime business partner. "Amelia, we'd love to explore synergies between Dawson Ventures and your AI platforms. Your father might have had concerns in the past, but we're flexible." 3 years ago, Amelia had pitched them the same platform. They had laughed her out of the room, told her to get serious. Now they wanted it in. The intercom buzzed. "Miss Dawson," her assistant said, "your mother is in the lobby. She refuses to leave." Amelia glanced at the security feed. There stood Joanna Dawson, composed as ever in her Hermes coat, arguing with the front desk like a Wall Street attorney whose assistant had spilled her oat milk latte. "Let her up," Amelia sighed. Minutes later, the elevator opened into the penthouse. Joanna stepped out, her heels clicking against the marble floor, until she stopped, frozen by the sheer opulence of her daughter's real life. Floor-to-ceiling views of the bay, a grand piano near a cascading waterfall installation, walls lined with rare art pieces, including a Warhol that once hung in the MoMA. "This is all yours?" she whispered. Amelia nodded, calmly pouring her a coffee. "Not the version of me you're used to seeing, is it? But the tiny apartment, the old car, props, a set I designed so no one would look too close." Joanna sat down slowly, suddenly looking older. "Your father, he always said you were wasting your life." Amelia walked to a side table and handed her a file. "If he'd invested the $1 million I asked for back then, it'd be worth $95 million today." Joanna's hands trembled. "He thought you were just lost. No, you all assumed I was losing because I wasn't winning your way." She turned toward the panoramic window, her voice resolute. "You all saw failure because that's what you were looking for." Behind her, Joanna said nothing. This wasn't just a reveal, it was a reckoning. 2 days later, the sky was cloudless as Amelia stood on the sunlit runway of her private airfield just north of Napa Valley. A light breeze danced across the tarmac as 3 jet-black Rolls-Royces rolled in with choreographed precision. Her family had arrived. One by one, they stepped out. Her father, Charles Dawson, looked like a man on the edge of a realization he wasn't ready for. Her mother, Joanna, tried to hold on to Grace, but her eyes gave her away. She'd been unraveling since their last meeting. Behind them came Olivia, arms wrapped tightly around her designer purse, and Elijah, adjusting his cufflinks like this was just another boardroom. They all stopped short as they took in Amelia's jet, sleek and massive, with Dawson Digital scripted in elegant chrome along the side. The logo shimmered under the sun. "Welcome," Amelia greeted, voice calm, cool. "I trust the ride was comfortable." "Amelia," Charles began, his voice stiff. "All this showmanship, it's not necessary." She smiled. "It's not a show, Dad. It's my life." Inside the jet, their unease grew. Handcrafted leather seats, gold-trimmed panels, vintage Pollock sketches hung beside curated NFT displays worth tens of millions. A butler poured chilled Dom Perignon. "Is that?" Aunt Laurel whispered, eyes wide as she pointed at a screen showing real-time crypto earnings. "Yes," Amelia said casually. That's the platform I pitched to you 3 years ago, remember? No one replied. 2 hours later, the jet descended over a turquoise ocean, revealing a sprawling island of white sands, lush jungle, and modern architecture, seamlessly woven into the landscape. As the plane touched down, they gasped at what was carved into the helipad in brilliant stone and gold leaf. Dawson Empire, visible from the sky. The luxury resort that emerged from the greenery looked like something out of a sci-fi film. Sleek, serene, powerful. Her family stepped off the jet in stunned silence, greeted by staff in crisp uniforms. "Welcome to my island," Amelia said, barefoot in a white linen jumpsuit, radiating quiet strength. "You'll each find something special waiting in your suites. I recommend reading it before dinners." They looked hesitant, unsure, unsteady, in a place they had never imagined belonging to the woman they once pitied. Later, as sunset bathed the island in warm amber light, they gathered in a dining hall made of glass and stone, the ocean crashing gently beyond. Each family member sat at a custom-designed place setting, crafted from tech components that once powered Amelia's early prototypes. Around the room, framed on every wall, the Forbes article. The headline glowed under soft lighting. Their eyes couldn't escape it. And then came the boxes, personalized files. For Charles, every email declining Amelia's proposals, each one matched with current valuations. For Olivia, her salary, side by side with Amelia's daily interest income. For Elijah, projections he once mocked, now worth billions. They read in silence, the truth crashing into them harder than the waves outside. Perspective had finally shifted, and Amelia didn't need to say a word. As dinner began, the silence hung heavy. Crystal glasses clinked softly, the only sound in the panoramic dining hall overlooking the ocean. The sky outside was an explosion of colors, deep orange fading into indigo, casting the island in a surreal glow. It was the perfect backdrop for what Amelia had planned next. She rose from her chair slowly, setting down her wine glass with precision. "Thank you all for coming," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "I know this isn't the reunion you expected, but then again, I'm not the person you expected either." Her father, Charles, shifted uncomfortably. Her mother looked down at her plate. Olivia avoided eye contact. Elijah sipped his drink a little too quickly. "I spent 15 years letting you believe I was barely surviving," Amelia continued. "And every time I tried to show you otherwise, I was shut down. So I stopped trying. I built in silence. I grew in secret. And now I no longer need your permission or your approval." She pressed a button on a sleek remote. Hidden panels opened across the walls, revealing high-definition displays that flickered to life. The room dimmed as a dramatic montage began, one Amelia had carefully crafted. It showed her early digital sketches, rejected by galleries, her cramped apartment, where she coded for 20 hours a day, the launch of her first platform, the AI breakthroughs, the international exhibitions, the 7-figure NFT auctions, the world tours, the tech summits, the investors, the billion-dollar deals. The montage ended with the bold phrase, "The future has a new architect." Then the screen shifted again. "This," Amelia said, "is Project Halo." The renderings that filled the room were breathtaking. An immersive, decentralized AI-driven platform that would change how the world created and consumed art. Real-time creation, emotion-based curation, a marketplace powered by dynamic blockchain tech, already backed by 2 Fortune 100 companies. Estimated pre-launch valuation, $10 billion. Gasps echoed around the table. "I wanted you to see it before it happened," Amelia said. "No more discovering my success in headlines. No more press releases. This time you get to witness it in real time." Her cousin Elijah looked pale. "Why show us this now?" "Because for once, I want you to see what I've built before you dismiss it." Olivia spoke, her voice small. "You're launching another empire, Shvai?" "No," Amelia said with a soft smile. "I'm reshaping a reality. And this time, there's room for collaborators, if they understand the vision." Charles finally looked up. his eyes heavy with a mix of regret and awe. "I was wrong," he said. "We all were." Amelia nodded, but didn't soften. "It's not about being wrong. It's about finally seeing." For the first time in years, the family wasn't looking at her with pity. They were looking at her with possibility. And she, Amelia Dawson, was done hiding. After the dinner, Amelia stayed behind while her family drifted off to their suites. She stepped onto the open-air terrace, the ocean breeze brushing against her face, warm and real, like her newfound freedom. For 15 years, she let them believe she was failing. Every dismissive look, every patronizing comment had once stung, but now, they no longer defined her. She had built something greater than their expectations ever allowed. She didn't need applause. She needed peace. And standing there, barefoot under the stars, she finally had it. Her younger brother, Landon, approached quietly. "You proved everyone wrong," he said, voice filled with quiet admiration. "But more than that, you proved yourself right." Amelia smiled, not the kind that sought validation, but the kind that comes from self-knowing. "I didn't build this empire for revenge. I built it because I believed in a future they couldn't see." Inside, her family wasn't mocking her anymore. They were studying her, learning from her, perhaps even respecting her. This wasn't about the billions or the headlines. It was about reclaiming her identity. She had been labeled the failure, the dreamer, the black sheep. Now, she was simply Amelia Dawson, visionary, leader, unapologetically herself. And finally, the world saw her as she had always seen herself. The next morning, Amelia sat quietly as her family gathered for breakfast. No more awkward pity, no sideways glances, just silence, respect, and realization. Her father approached with a folded note. "I was wrong. You didn't just succeed, you redefined what success means. I'm sorry, Am." Amelia said nothing, only nodded, placing the note beside her first NFT receipt, a reminder of where it all began. She stood and raised her glass. "For years I shrank myself so you'd feel comfortable. I let you believe I was failing. But I was building, quietly, deliberately. And now, I don't need validation. I just need truth." Eyes met hers. Finally, not with doubt, but understanding. Later, she walked along the cliffside helipad, ocean wind sweeping through her hair. Sarah joined her. "You did it," Sarah whispered. "No," Amelia said softly. "I became it." She had gone from the forgotten dreamer to the woman who shaped industries, not because she fought for attention, but because she stayed true to her vision, even when no one else believed in it. Her story wasn't just hers anymore. It was a reminder for every underestimated soul. You don't have to be loud to change the world. You just have to keep building while they're not watching. True success isn't always loud. It doesn't need validation or applause. Sometimes, the greatest power lies in staying quiet while you build, in trusting your vision when no one else does. Amelia's story reminds us that being doubted isn't the end. It's often the beginning of something extraordinary. For 15 years, she lived beneath the weight of judgment and low expectations. But instead of breaking, she used that pressure to rise. The lesson: you don't have to follow someone else's timeline or definition of achievement. You can carve your own path, even in silence. And when the time comes to reveal what you've built, do it with grace, not for revenge, but to honor the version of you that never gave up. If you've ever felt overlooked, underestimated, or mocked for dreaming differently, remember this: your journey is still valid, even if no one claps for it yet. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need instant results to prove your worth. Focus on your growth. Master your craft. Stay consistent. Let your results be the loudest thing in the room. And one day, just like Amelia, you'll look back not with bitterness, but with pride. Because you didn't just succeed, you became the person you always knew you could be. If you enjoy deep, emotional, and meaningful stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a new update. Your support is the motivation that drives us to keep bringing you powerful stories. Once again, thank you for being here, and see you in the next story.